Welcome to the Betty Rocker Show, the place to be to nourish your mind, love your body, and rock your life. What's up, rock stars? Coach Betty Rocker here, and welcome. Today is such a celebration because this is episode 1 of the Betty Rocker Show, and I'm so excited that you are here listening in, participating, because this podcast is for you. This is all for you. This is something that I have wanted to put together for you for such a long time to share some of my philosophies, some of the things that I have learned that have really helped many of the people who have used the programs I've created. So many amazing questions that you've sent me that I've been able to answer maybe one-on-one or in a group setting that I can now answer here to the collective so that you can listen in absolutely anytime and get the answers that you're looking for. And also learn with me from some of the incredible people that I get to interview and want to share with you. There's just incredible people out there in my space, in our atmosphere who I get access to. And I just feel like those conversations not only serve me so much in what I have to learn, but also really can serve you. So I'm so excited for you to be here for this show and to really get some insights out of it. You know, I used to always say and think, oh, knowledge is power, but it's really the insights that we get from the knowledge we gain that's truly powerful. And I have really gotten some great insights from hearing stories and learning from smart people. And I also have learned so much from you. Thank you so much for always sending me such good questions and for asking for the things that you want to know about. I've really gone on this journey with the Betty Rocker brand over the last many years that I've been doing it. And I have gotten more knowledge and become a better coach and become a better woman, thanks to the amazing women who really are the community that form this tribe of Betty Rockers. And let's talk about how the heck I got the name Betty Rocker in the first place. And why did I name this brand the Betty Rocker? It's kind of a funny story. When I was growing up, I was always called punk rock Betty Crocker because I was kind of, I was an adrenaline junkie. I was very hard and fast, and I wanted to do lots of things with bikes and motorcycles and going very fast. And I was really into jumping out of airplanes with a parachute, lots of adrenaline fueled things. And I balanced that out with this sort of nurturing side that I've always had. I love to bake and I love to take care of people I cared about with healthy food. And that was sort of where I got this moniker punk rock Betty Crocker. And, if you've seen me in person, I have a huge tattooed sleeve up my right arm. And, this punk rock Betty Crocker sort of moniker really just sort of morphed into Betty Rocker when I decided to start my blog, which is where I talk about all of the things that have been working for me, my workouts, the workouts I'm doing, and sharing the recipes that I've been creating and many of the mindset strategies and insights into our food and fitness and how we practice living life in a healthy body and really get the most out of our healthy lifestyle of awesome. So that's the blog in a nutshell. But the Betty Rocker, well, I may be the Betty Rocker. Every single one of you is a Betty Rocker, right? Because so in Australia, they call gals or girls Betties. And rocker is really about rocking our life. What are all the actions that we can take to really rock at life and rock our lives? And there are many ways that we can do that. So for me, the Betty Rocker is, I'm the Betty Rocker, but everyone who watches the brand, listens to the brand, uses the tools is a Betty Rocker. And I love seeing all the little rockers out there. I love it when you share your pictures of your family, your kids, the people who are watching you take action towards your goals in a meaningful way. Because one of the reasons I started creating 15-minute workouts, which is maybe how you discovered me. Maybe you're one of the, at this point, 3 million people who's taken my free Make Fat Cry challenge, which is this, I just made a challenge for myself years ago where I just filmed a 15-minute a day workout. And you can do this. You can get it at makefatcrychallenge.com if you haven't done it yet. But it's, you get a 15-minute workout each day, and it changes each day. It's not always hardcore. It's very balanced. And because you do something each day, you really get amazing results. And I did this because I used to always hear that Geico commercial, the one that was like 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And I was like, man, 15 minutes, that's just such a small part of your day. 15 minutes could save you, 15% of your body fat over the course of a year. It could save you, 15% of years of your life if you were taking meaningful action towards your goals. 15 minutes a day is a habit that we could form that I felt was really attainable. One of the tough things I think has been for me personally, and from so many of the people that I get to talk to, is that we sort of are just our own worst critic, right? We're just really, really hard on ourselves. And this was definitely the case for me growing up. I was always just really hard on myself for how I looked, how I was performing. It was all about was I smart or was I pretty? These were the standards. And what I always strive to do, of course, because I didn't feel very pretty, I never felt like I measured up because I was constantly stuck in that comparison trap, looking at magazines and thinking, oh my gosh, I don't look like those girls. So since I don't have the pretty piece, I better be really smart. And I drove myself so hard. I graduated third in my graduating class in high school. I ended up getting a full academic scholarship to my college. I went to Tufts University, and those things were, very formative for me. And yet I wasn't really happy about any of it. I didn't really feel contentment. I didn't feel much like love for myself, even though I was a high achiever. And, we are just all of us, we can be so hard on ourselves. And so a big part of what I started to get at with this Betty Rocker name was because the real reason behind this brand, behind everything I do, why I do it, is because I want to be impactful. I want to be a role model to the people that look up to me. And I have found through much trial and error that all of the focus and attention that I used to put on how I looked was really not getting me anywhere. I became so obsessive about performance and about how I looked and how I, I wasn't really taking care of myself, but I thought I was being healthy. More on that to be in a moment. I really messed myself up. And once I started to understand that the way I took care of myself and the way that I showed up for myself and the way I talked to myself and loved myself, the way I nourished myself, when the intention behind that came from a self-loving place, I noticed that the byproduct was the fit body I had been after all these years. It wasn't that it was effortless, because it takes habit building and effort and consistency to focus on your physical body, to show up to do the workouts, to show up to do your cooking or paying attention to what you're eating, to get to bed on time, to manage our stress. And those things are really important. And when we do them from a place of self-love, it really does start to translate externally into our physical being. And I was chasing that look for years, but I was chasing it by beating myself up, by forcing myself to work harder constantly. And, I don't know that I was really a good role model in that regard when I was doing those things. And I feel that the point of the Betty Rocker brand, which I know so many of you have identified and feel, is that when we take these actions from a self-loving place, we notice how the people around us respond. We notice that they, kids, if you have kids, they don't do what you say, they do what you do. And they're picking up literally everything from the way that you talk to yourself, the way you look at yourself, the way that you treat yourself, all of these things, like your dialogue that we don't even realize we have. So we have to start internally. We have to start with the dialogue we have with ourselves. And for me, my journey was very much about my physical body. I really burned out my adrenals when I was in my early 30s from just years of driving myself so hard to try and look a certain way, to try to be somebody that would be acceptable, in whatever way I thought I needed to be accepted. And that was, I don't think anything in our life is ever a waste of time. I think everything in our life is instructive, and it serves a really important purpose, which is to teach us valuable lessons that can help us go to the next level with ourselves and grow us. I think we're all here to grow and evolve. And that was definitely my journey. Those are the lessons. Some of the hard lessons in my journey was that I actually needed to take a look at how I was, what the intention was behind the way I was treating myself. And I don't know if you can relate, but I just feel like this piece about how we look or how much we weigh or, our measurements and all of these pieces, it can really get us into a difficult feedback loop where we're just never happy and never satisfied. And I think a lot about this with the scale, with the weight on the scale. I used to be like someone who would weigh myself every single day. And if the number on the scale went up 2 pounds, I was unhappy. If it was the same, I felt like I needed to be lower. It was just this obsessive feedback loop. And I feel like so many of us are basing our self-worth on these arbitrary numbers that really aren't that helpful. They don't really tell the full story. You can't measure how much lean muscle tissue you're carrying versus how much body fat you're carrying just based on the number on the scale. You have to actually get those things measured differently. And if we're not thinking about it that way, if we're simply looking at a number on a scale or one specific thing, like I hate my nose, I have cellulite, I don't like my boobs, I don't like the arm fat that I have, I don't like this, I don't like that, it's much harder to take advantage of the path to creating the goal that we want to achieve. Because listen, there's nothing wrong with having goals. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be fitter, to be stronger, to be more, have higher endurance, for example, to want to be beautiful, to want to feel attractive, to want to do any of those things that make you happy. But the thing that is really challenging is when we're constantly telling ourselves that we're not those things and we can't be those things and that we're not worthy enough because we aren't those things. And I think that is a really easy thing to get stuck into mentally unless we're aware that we are doing that and that we are aware that we're talking that way to ourselves. So for me, the foundation of all fitness really does start with the way that we talk to ourselves. So a really easy way to help yourself with a positive habit, a reframe, if you do catch yourself feeling like this or talking to yourself this way, is I would like for you to right now picture a friend of yours, someone really cool. It can be me, I'm cool. Someone in your life. I picture one of your best friends, maybe your sister, could be a cousin, anyone in your life. Picture someone you really care about, okay? And now I want you to imagine that she is coming to you and she's telling you some of the stuff that maybe you know that you tell yourself. What are some of the stuff that you don't love about yourself, like you don't want to talk about very often, right? Maybe she's coming to you and she's sharing these things with you. I know what your automatic response to her is. You immediately start looking for good things about her and you focus on those things about her and you tell her about how great those things are about her. And you also commend her for the effort she's putting into working on her whole total self, because you don't love her because of how she looks or because of how her nose looks or because of how her butt looks or because of how much she weighs, do you? You don't love your friend for these specific items, right? You love her for the totality of who she is and you respect her for the effort she puts into her life and you focus on the things that she's doing really well. And this is the thing, this is the mirror we need to hold up to ourselves, is we need to remember that we are doing an amazing job overall. We are putting effort into the things that matter to us. And, right now your priority may not be able to be fitness. We all go through seasons of our lives where it's not, right? That's just how it happens. So if your focus is able to be fitness though, look at the effort you're putting in and celebrate that about yourself. Remember that you are a whole total package. You are an amazing being. And there's so much more to you than one simple thing like the number on the scale, how your arms look, all of these little things that we focus on. And those things aren't any less valid. It's okay that you want to, improve them or change them or transform them. It's just that the mindset that you have as you approach those goals, when it's self-loving, when you're able to enjoy the process a little bit more, and you will just be more motivated to take the actions that we all need to take in order to be stronger, to be fitter, if these are your goals, right? So it's that approach of, this is how I feel about myself. I am not perfect. I don't pretend to be. I have many flaws, and I am also awesome. And this is what I want to give you is the flossom concept. I want you to embrace your flossom. I want you to revel in it. I want you to know that you love your friends because of their flossom. You forgive people when they're not perfect all the time. And the biggest reason I think we forgive people, and this is the biggest reason to forgive yourself, is because when we hear someone take personal responsibility, when they own the thing that they've done or that they haven't done or whatever the case may be, when they own it, we can't help but forgive them because we know that they see the issue and we know that they are going to try harder, that they're going to do a better job the next time. We know that. And you have to forgive yourself. And there's my practice for forgiveness is something I learned from my good friend Dave Asprey at his 40 Years of Zen retreat. And this was a really powerful practice. So you can do this with me. If there's something about you would need to forgive right now, or someone in your life that you need to forgive, it goes like this. First, think of the situation or the person or the trigger, something that really is bothering you. And it might just be something that someone said to you recently. It might be something you said to yourself, the way you've been beating yourself up about how your body looks or feels right now. And I want you to call that feeling up in yourself. And now I want you to look for what gold, what blessing, what value has there been in this negative, potentially feeling negative situation? What could it be about it that was of value to you? And I know that sometimes can be hard, but it also is, there's always something of value for us. So once you've sort of thought about that, I want you to next do another thing that's actually really challenging, and that is to take personal responsibility for the situation at hand. Is there anywhere in the situation that you could see that you put yourself in the line of fire, that you instigated, that there's no judgment. It's just take that responsibility for yourself, right? Take the responsibility. And then the almost last piece is to just step into the other person's shoes, walk in their shoes. And if this is about you versus you, walk in the shoes of the you that is actually feeling that way. Remember that your life and all of the circumstances that surround your life have created your belief systems, have put you here in this place right now, today, where you are. And that's actually what has informed your if it's negative talk, that's what's informed the negative talk, right? So just put yourself in the shoes of the person or of the person, the version of you who has created this emotion, this feeling. And from this place, I would imagine you may have a little bit more perspective now on the situation at hand. It's possible that you're starting to feel a little bit less crappy about it, which is good. I hope you are. And I want you to forgive. Either forgive yourself or forgive the other person. And it's not like you have to go tell them you forgive them. It's really just for you mentally in your mind. And you can, of course, go tell them you forgive them if it's appropriate. It could have been something really profound, and that can be appropriate too. It's just that I want you to feel like it's okay, because life happens all the time. We always come up against challenges because we have this amazing power in ourselves to transform every experience into a growth opportunity, because you are actually the creator of your own life. You are completely in the seat. You are in the driver's seat. And because of that, you're going to be faced with challenges, because that's the world, right? That is life. You're going to be faced with many challenges. And however, around you, there are so many coaches, there are so many guides, there are so many wonderful people. They're available to you, to help you, to serve you, to support you. And I bet you could name like three people right now. Maybe it's a podcast you listen to. Maybe it's a blog you read. Maybe it's your best friend. Maybe it is actually a coach, a therapist. And remember that it's a good idea to resource yourself when you're struggling, because you are in the driver's seat. This is your vessel as you move through the world. I always refer to the body as this vessel of awesomeness, right? This vessel of awesome, because within our body, we contain this world of cells, and it's amazing. But all of these cells, all of them, every single one of them is dedicated to you and to your survival and to your happiness and to your thriving, to your well-being, to your life. And in order to really love your body and really help those cells do the job, which is you are the job. You are the biggest dedication of all of these cells. And they are almost like singing in harmony. And when we communicate to our body in a way that deharmonizes that song, by being angry with ourselves for too long, by being negative towards ourselves, it's easy to foster sickness. It's easy to foster stress in our bodies. And there's so many external stressors out there in the world today. Traffic is the first one that comes to mind. Driving in traffic is stressful. There are many things in our world that stress us out. And I think that it's just essential for us all to become more and more mindful and aware of our internal stressors, so that we can harmonize with our cellular functions, with our body's functions. And the reason I created the 4 pillars of health, which you may or may not have heard me tell you before, I'll tell you what they are, is because I wanted us all to have just a simple foundation to talk to our body with. I like to say that, the way that we look and feel is a byproduct of how we treat ourselves, and how we nourish ourselves is a communication that we have to our body, to our cells, to our organs. And how our body looks and feels is a communication that the body has with us back. How much energy you have, how your stomach feels after a meal. All of these are communications that come deep from within our body. And it's important to listen, and it's important to respond by adjusting what we're doing, how we're eating, how we're moving, if the body is not responding positively. And that was definitely my story. I felt very sick and very out of control because I was overtraining for years, because I was eating crap. And I just had to face the fact that I needed to take personal responsibility to start to apply nutrition to myself in a new way. I had to start thinking about myself in a new way. I had to stop beating myself up so hard. And as you listen to the episodes of this podcast over time, you will learn my full journey. You'll learn all of the things about my story. And I hope to learn more about you as well, because I'm looking for your comments in the show episodes, and I'll be looking for your reviews on iTunes. And I want to know what you think, because the whole reason I've gotten to here to be able to have this conversation with you is because of you, because of your feedback, because of the wonderful comments that you make and the questions that you ask. So know how important you are as a part of this show, and how grateful I am that you're here. Now, what are the 4 pillars of health? That is the question. The very first pillar, and if you know these, rock star, good for you. So what is the first pillar? The first pillar is sleep. And sleep is something that we will talk about a lot on this show. And the reason sleep is the very first pillar, and this is a very intentional order, is because Everything comes from our body's ability to reset and restore itself while we're sleeping. The cells have many processes. The brain has much to process from the course of the day. In our dreaming state, we clear much detritus out of our brain from the many thoughts we've had throughout the day, the stressors we've had throughout the day. And that sleep is just very essential. It's not just the quantity of sleep, because we all need different varying amounts of sleep. We're wired differently. We have different lifestyles, right? It's the quality of sleep. We need a certain amount of deep sleep, a certain amount of REM sleep, and we'll be getting into some really cool episodes where we go through exactly how much, to pay attention to the different aspects of the sleep cycle and what they mean for you. Just remember, if you're not getting perfect sleep right now, it's like what I said earlier. We all go through seasons in our lives, and there are 4 pillars, because if you imagine your healthy physique is sitting on a chair with 4 legs and they are the 4 pillars, well, if one of them goes out from under you, your chair is still going to be able to balance. And if 2 of them go out, it might be a little rocky and you might be wanting to really pay attention to getting another one back in. And it's okay. Just know that, it's never going to be perfect. We're always a work in progress. But I do start with sleep because I feel that it is the most essential pillar to focus on. And you might be surprised by that, because you're like, well, Betty Rocker, I thought you were about workouts and nutrition and healthy eating. And I absolutely am. And we're going to get to those in the pillar. In fact, the second pillar of health is nutrition, because how we nourish our bodies informs our energy balance. It informs our hormones balance. It informs how much we're going to get out of those workouts that we do. And the nourishment is such a hugely important piece. I think that there is a lot of value and a lot of merit in many of the different eating strategies out there. Call them diets, call them eating strategies, call them what you will, but different things work for different people at different times. And I think it's really valuable not to just discount the different strategies. I think it's valuable to experiment with what works for you, because sometimes what will work for you works because of your busy lifestyle. Sometimes what works for you will work for you because you have a specific goal and you have the time to approach it. It really depends on you. And I've personally had a lot of really interesting experiences with trying different dietary strategies. And the thing I always come back to, and the thing that I constantly find to be true, is that eating foods from whole food sources, from the way that nature made them, and cooking them myself as often as possible, or getting them from places where they're prepared in a very natural way, has been really the secret to my lasting health and well-being. And there are, like I said, many different ways to approach healthy eating. I just think pay attention to the source of your foods, get them from a wholesome place, and make sure that they're just based in whole foods, that as close to the way nature gave them to us. And our third pillar of health really has a lot to do with this conversation that we've been having here today. It's a lot about the stress management. And we talked about that internal stress state that so many of us can get into, that's really debilitating, and that can kind of like suck the life and the energy out of us. And that it's really a double whammy when you have all of the external stressors around you compounding with the internal stressors. And that's why I want to start this whole show off right from the start, giving you the most essential piece of what I think makes me be successful in fitness, and what I think has given all of the people who are taking my challenges, doing my workout programs, doing my eating plans, any of the things that you're doing, they're infused with this self-love piece. They're infused with what is the intention behind what you're doing. How are you talking to yourself as you go through this eating program? Let's not get obsessive about our workout. Let's not get obsessive about our weight. Let's just use the data as one more piece in the puzzle that we look at, but mostly it has to do with how we talk to ourselves. So the stress piece, the stress management piece, is my third pillar of health, because I want you to really understand the importance of it in the whole big picture. And we can manage quite a lot of stress, actually. We really are very capable of handling a lot of stress. We're very resilient, remember that. It's just that when stress spikes and stays high for a long period of time, and sometimes we're not even aware of it because it's unresolved stuff or it's a habitual way of thinking, that it can be very damaging, not only to our goals, but really to our long-term health. And it is one of those things that creates discord in our cells, in our body, and it deharmonizes that beautiful song, that one song that all of your cells, even though they're doing all these different things, are singing for you and for your health. I love that analogy. I love the singing analogy. I love thinking of all of our cells singing together in our bodies. They really are, And if you think about the food that you're taking in and the thoughts that you're taking in and the sleep that you're having is are these things harmonizing the melody of me, or are they deharmonizing it? And the way that you know is how you feel. Does my stomach hurt? Am I tired all the time? Am I anxious all the time? Am I angry? Am I unable to respond lovingly? Am I unable to talk to myself lovingly? These are good questions to ask, right? And hey, if you're getting answers you don't like, guess who's in the driver's seat? That's you. You. And guess what you have? Access to coaches, guides, information, resources. You can get these things and they are accessible to you. Many of them are free and you just get out there and look for them. And of course, our fourth pillar is the one that I'm the best known for, which is exercise. Yay! I love to move my body. I always have loved to move my body. And I think that my biggest lesson in life in the last 10 years was learning to move my body in a way that was balanced. And this is something that we all kind of get caught up in this more is more. I need to do more workouts because more workouts will be more effective. And we sort of think the opposite with food, right? We're like, less food means I'm going to be skinnier. But actually, in both cases, the opposite is true. We want to nourish our body with wholesome foods and eat enough of them where we feel full and satisfied. And that's very easy to do when we're eating whole foods. The body knows, it speaks the language of the whole foods because it's made up of the same organic matter as the foods that we eat. And when it comes to exercise, balancing your training so that you're not exhausted, exercise itself is a kind of stress for the system. So it's so important that we are exercising from a strong, healthy foundation, not exercising on an injury or when we're sick, when our body's already compromised, when we're already stressed out. We want to be able to take the healthy stress from the exercise that we do and then rest and recover and then build additional lean tissue and really build our energetic life force from the exercises that we do. So I love to do a combination in many of my programs, whether they're body weight programs or programs that you can do from home with a little bit of equipment. I love to combine explosive cardio with strength training. And I love to really mix it up. And I love to have rest days in the mix. And I like to do flexibility and mobility training in the mix as well. And I just think that having that balance keeps it fun, keeps it fresh, keeps it varied, keeps us on track. And what I was saying earlier about, is 15 minutes a day enough when we were talking about the 15-minute a day Make Fat Cry challenge? Like I said, the only ineffective workout is the one you don't do. So if you get your foot in the door and you do a 15-minute workout and you're like, hey, this feels great. I think I'm going to do more. And if you're dying after 15 minutes, awesome. You pushed yourself to the limit. Good for you. Remember that we all start in different places. We all have different goals. Just like I said, there's no one perfect way to eat. There's no one perfect way to train. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. I give tons of variations and modifications in all of my workout programs and all of the workout videos that I teach for this very reason. Because as I go through my monthly cycle, for example, I may have less energy one day than I did at the beginning of the month. And you know what? I might want to take a variation to support my body. You may have had an injury recently. You may have had recently had a child, and you're bringing your body back on track. You may have gotten out of shape and are getting back into shape. There are lots of reasons why we want to dial it back and respect our body and really tune into where it's at and not force ourselves or push ourselves to go so hard so fast. And even if you are in your peak physique, in your peak shape, it's so essential to really pay attention to your energy level, to really make sure that you're not overdoing it. Sometimes when we get to a really good place with ourselves and we want to stay there, we kind of plateau. And it's really easy to feel like we need to do more in order to stay where we are and maintain. And actually what we do is we just need to train a little smarter. We need a different balance. We need to mix up our program a little bit, challenge ourselves in new ways, not necessarily train more, just train a little differently. So there's a really cool way to balance yourself out. And some of these conversations, which we've just scratched the surface of, are all things I'm so excited to diving in more deeply in this podcast with you about. And I'm so excited for you to listen to the next episode that I have this amazing conversation with this incredible woman, my dear friend, Amber Sears, who, we really get into some of our personal journeys and some of the stuff that has really shaped us. And I feel that some of the insight you'll probably relate to some of my story and Amber's story. So I'm really, really excited for you to listen to that next episode and to listen in to these conversations in the Betty Rocker Show in general. So thank you again so much for being a part of my community and my tribe. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being here and listening to this episode today. Episode 1, celebration! So cool that you're here. And I am sincerely thankful for you for sharing this with your friends or any women or friends in your life that you think would benefit from hearing these philosophies or this, my framework around the way that I see life. I offer it to you. If it's helpful, please share it. And I thank you so much for your reviews on iTunes, for letting other people know that this podcast is worth listening to. I read every single one, and I am so thankful, sincerely, for your comments. And of course, you can find all of the show notes from today's episode and links to anything I talked about over on thebettyrocker.com/podcast. Everything is there for you to access. So as always, I'm Betty Rocker, and you are so awesome and amazing. I look forward to seeing you again and chatting with you again very, very soon. Have a wonderful day until then. Bye for now.
This podcast is for information purposes only. Statements and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Brie Argetsinger, Betty Rocker Inc., and the producers disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. Before starting a new exercise, fitness or health protocol, or if you think you have a medical problem, always consult a licensed physician.